Shalom Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Okay, Hebrews, man, I've been running across a lot of history. I'm always reading Israelite history and just, anything dealing with Israelite history. The Israelite Brotherhood gonna investigate and try to figure it out. That's what the Israelite Brotherhood do. It investigate Israelite history. And when people be professing Israelite history and be trying to make a connection to Israelite history or explain Israelite history, and the Israelite Brotherhood just gonna look around and see what's going on to see if it's any truth there. And it ain't no truth nowhere dealing with Israelite history. The only truth about Israelite history is basically gonna come from the real Israelites and their experience in this captivity. Now you see all kind of videos and so forth in Hebrews, doing this and that. That's real. Now those Hebrews that's, doing their thing here in captivity, they history ain't right, and that they doing Jewish history. And I explain that in a lot of videos, the difference between Jewish history and real correct Hebrew Israelite history that you can see out the Tanakh. Okay, I run across this article right here that I was reading, the Jewish connection to Jerusalem. Now, the average person, when they think about the Jews, and they just instantly think that the Jews represent the Israelites or the tribe of Judah specifically. And man, that's all false. And I explain in videos, how our heritage fell into the hand of the Babylonian scribes. And the Babylonian scribes are Amorites. I'm gonna get that out now. The Babylonian scribes are Amorites, and I explained how the Sepharvaims from Sippar, who they call Sephardi today, are Amorites. That's a fact. That's something that can't be hidden. Ain't nobody never explained their heritage truthfully up to now. And that's what the Israelite Brotherhood gonna do, because it pertains to Israelite history, in our heritage. And we're gonna have to start straightening up our heritage as happening now. Israelites waking up everywhere in captivity. It's one of the fastest growing phenomena in the world, is that the Israelites, men, are waking up to their true heritage. We've been called Negroes, African Americans, and blacks, and all kind of stuff. We've been called all kind of names since our ancestors been in captivity. And we done sorted out all that we're not all those evil, wicked names that our oppressors give us, and that we are actually the Israelites that the Bible speak about, talk about, or the history is about. Okay, Hebrews, I was examining the Jewish connection to Jerusalem. Now, this the thing. Now, we know that we abandoned our heritage to the Jews during the Babylonian Wars. Now, this the thing that people can't understand or figure out, is that they merge their history into our history. Now, they was already Amorites, and Jerusalem was already their home, because the Amorites empire went from Mesopotamia, the whole Mesopotamia, man, the whole Mesopotamia right here. The whole Mesopotamia, in Syria, most certainly Syria, and the Promised Land, was part of a Canaanite heritage. And the Canaanites and the Amorites are Canaanites, and Mesopotamia was their, the place that they roamed. And man, them folks, man, then got history all messed up where they confuse people, and then they confuse people by not explaining that they're the original inhabitants of the land of Canaan, being Amorites. And let's get this out the way real quick so we'll know this. And let me show this. And then I'm going to explain how they've been using our history to justify their history. And if they using our history to show that they're the Israelites, then it must be that thin line that we can see. It's got to be a line there somewhere. And the thin line is during the Babylonian Wars. That history was never recorded. That history was never recorded about the Israelites going into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. Why would these peoples that was placed in Samaria and they was Amorites and we was supposed to have took their land coming from Egypt with Prophet Moses, when we got the covenant that we were supposed to extinguish the Canaanite culture and destroy the Canaanite culture, that why would these Sepharvaim, who was Amorites from Babylon that was placed in our land during the Assyrian times, why would they tell the world that the Israelites ran off into Africa during the Babylonian Wars? It's in the Tanakh, and if you ain't wise enough to read it and understand it in the Tanakh, then why would they tell you that the Hebrews did? You know what I'm saying? That the Hebrews did that, ran into Africa. They not gonna do that, because just imagine if, the Israelites ran into Africa and you was them, and then they abandoned the whole land with a connection supposedly to the creator and everything, and then these peoples was to destroy your land, but then they run off, from whence they come from. We come up out of Egypt, it was just a few of us, went into Egypt, and we sojourned there and become a great people. And then when we come out of Egypt to destroy the Canaanite tribes, that was probably horrible to them. And then we go run back into Africa, to live and abandon everything. So, why would these peoples be upset? They'll take advantage of that, as they did. They took advantage of that. And then, because we was going through so many troubles during the time that they was placed, plus we never driven out all the Amorites. So the Amorites that was there that we didn't drive out when we come out of Egypt will be kindred to them when they was placed in our land during the Assyrian times, and they would be kindred. And then when we run off into Africa, us real Israelites, then all them would be united. And then the ones that was there that we didn't destroy would be exposed to our heritage. And then the educated ones that can absorb gods and all everything will be placed in our land. And the ones from Sepharvaim are responsible for this place called Sipper. If you ever want to understand the tax and how a government function in our system that we have here in the Western Hemisphere is identical to the system and governments that they had in Sipper and Babylon, and them people that control Sipper and Babylon are the same people, that's Canaanites, and they control America. Look here, Hebrews. All right, look. You see Sipper right there. You see Sipper, man. That's one of the most important places in the whole Mesopotamia area, and it was controlled by the Amorites from Sepharvaim, and they control writings and everything. Matter of fact, Babylon couldn't have functioned without these people and they government skills. And then they come from the they was hanging around the Sumerian kingdoms empire till it was destroyed by them. And then they was hanging around the Akkadian Empire, and then the Sumerian and the Akkadian Empire is gonna be like Hamite associated groups, and then how that they was destroyed by them, and then how these peoples become the whole masters of the Mesopotamia area, and man, then they mix with everybody, and then how I traced them going into the devils that was in Turkey underground, and how that the Amorite holdings was right there, and then you can see that union in the Tanakh where it speak about in Ezekiel how the Amorite and the Hittite, was together and stuff, and then how that the Amorites are responsible for the whole Mesopotamia, area and its gods and so forth. And I want to show this connection right here that the people that say that they Jewish, the Jewish people, and their connection to Jerusalem is just their Amorite heritage, but they would try to explain their connection to Jerusalem through Israelite heritage, which showed that the Israelite heritage is really real, because the Jews are trying to play our old heritage off as them, and we know that it's not. Look, man, they got all kind of artifacts to show you that the Israelites really exist. And let me see, man, where them artifacts at? It must be on this one right here. Oh, that's that devil Vilad. Oh man, he a Ashkenazi Jew, Vilad, and then how about he go get all the wicked Hebrews? He been promoting wickedness, man, on a whole nother level. He'll get all the wicked Hebrews and then get them to talk about their wickedness on TV. And oh man, he's a superstar with it. And then, them Jews do that, and how they go get us to promote our wickedness as if it's righteous and good. And he's a master at that. Oh man, he's a master at that. And them Hebrews going for that mess. Alright, that's Amorites. Let's see. Alright, the Jews. Look, here we go again. The Jewish historical connection to Jerusalem. They got these artifacts using their menorah. Now, this is the thing. Now, in 70 AD, the Jews would have had been in the promised land about, man, almost 850 years. You know what I'm saying? They'd have been in the promised land, by time 70 AD, they'd have been in the promised land about 800 years from being placed in 722 BC, and then coming and doing our heritage, and then all the way down to 70 AD. It's a couple of times, it was a few little points that they was quiet, till we was destroyed, after they was placed in our land. We was basically rent out 134 years later. That's not long, from 722 BC to 588 BC. I think that's about 134 years that we was, kicked out the land, and then them folks got, control of our heritage, because when the exiles come back from Babylon, they didn't have a chance. I just got a video. I just recently did a video on how King David's descendants was destroyed. Alright, but this is what the Jews showing this as their connection to the promised land. Man, they got a rock right here. That's an inscription of King David. Man, they say that this rock, man, you get our ancestors would have wrote those, words, and what I'm saying, on them rocks. And then how did they found that? And then how that go back to King David. So they show you that we Israelites was in the promised land, and that the tribes of Israel is real. It's like a lot of people don't think that the Bible is real and so forth, and that is some kind of fairy tale. Alright, let's see. Alright, here goes some symbols. Let me see, what's these right here. I believe that's some seals from King Hezekiah, and then I'm gonna go to King Hezekiah history, man, to show that the people who we abandoned our heritage to, was there during King Hezekiah time, and then that they came to the Passover dinner, so they would be doing our heritage. And these are Amorites that was come from Babylon, and then let's show that the Sephardics come from Babylon real quick. And then we already know that the Amorites, are, kind of like the founders of the Babylon, and gave Mesopotamia, what I'm saying, is a good little start. All right, if we go to Second Kings, I turn right to it. Second Kings, chapter 17. All right, Second Kings, chapter 17, verse 24. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cuth, and from Abel, and from Hamath, and from where? Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. So those are Amorites. That's the Sephardic Jews right there. They're being placed in Samaria area. Now, they not just going to be confined to the Samaria area, you know what I'm saying? Because the Amorites are everywhere in the promised land. We never destroyed them. We never destroyed the Amorites. But these are some artifacts that they found, in the promised land, that showed that the real Israelites was there, and that the Bible is real. But the Jews try to take credit for it and claim it as their own, and try to use that to explain that that those Jews today are the Israelites in the past, which is false, because the Jews' connection to the promised land and to Jerusalem is gonna be their Amorite heritage, and that they was Amorites already. And then when they was placed back in the promised land, the ones that controlled the Babylonian god system from Super, then we run off, then they would get control of the Israelite history and heritage, when we was destroyed and kicked out for breaking covenant. And then if we broke covenant and had to abandon the promised land in the old covenant, then they just picked it up. You know what I'm saying? It's like we just took off our shoes and just start running barefooted into Africa, and then them people just picked up our shoes and put them on and started wearing them. We took off our jacket, throwed our jacket off, and ran off, and then they picked it up and started wearing it. That's all they did, and that's why them folks wear black hats and coats, and wear black and stuff all the time, because we took off, we throwed everything down, and then they picked it up and started claiming it. And then they was Amorites already. See, that's the thing, they was Amorites already. See, the Sepharvaims, the Sephardic Jews, are Amorites already, and then the Sepharvaims is the Hebrew word for Sephardic, Sephardic, and Sephardim. Those are the Jewish groups, and those are the people who try to use our artifacts that we had to prove that we was Israelites, because basically the bones and a whole bunch of the things that we had was destroyed by all those civilizations that moved into the promised land after we ran off. And then the Creator said he would destroy everything we had, and basically everything that we had was originally destroyed when the Babylonians burnt our land up. When the Babylonians burnt the land up, and then we had to run off into Africa, that was kind of like destroying our artifacts and stuff right there, because we that went into Africa never come back. And it's like this. This is Jeremiah 52:13. And burnt the houses of the Elohim, and the king's houses, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and all the houses of the great men burnt he with fire. and all the army of the Chaldeans that were with the captain of the guard break down all the walls of Jerusalem round about. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of our artifacts was destroyed, but they are able to find artifacts. And then when they do, the Jews use that as proof to prove that they from the promised land, when that's incorrect, because they're only from the promised land based upon their Amorite heritage. And the people from Cyprus are Amorites, and they can't say that they ain't Amorites because they come from an Amorite created empire, and Cyprus was an Amorite created city. You know, it's impossible, man, to get away and not say that these folks were Amorites, and that the Amorites controlled, you know, the time during this time, and how that those peoples was placed in Samaria. You know, they was placed in Samaria in 722 BC, but they was Amorites already. They was Amorites already. And then when we go run off into Africa, it's just the Amorites just got control of their land. So it's easy for them to lay claim to Jerusalem using our artifacts. That's going to deceive people. And that's what's been happening. You know, and it's like Ashkenazi got in our land under the name Scythian. You know, and Ashkenazi, man, they constantly finding arrowheads and so forth that Ashkenazi use to shoot at us. They don't really go into Ashkenazi heritage and the promised land. They kind of leave that alone, and then they let the other Jews kind of like occupy the picture. And then, you know, they try to say that the Ashkenazi, you know, Jews come about just because some of the Jews went to Germany and lived in Germany. But, you know, people are deceived. Man, it's deception everywhere. Man, it's deception everywhere dealing with the Israelite heritage. And the Israelite heritage is going to be the deception to get a whole lot of lies and mischief going on in the world. Basically, all the wars probably can originate from the lies. All right, how about Ashkenazi? Name is Sukkah, and that the Assyrians identified them, and that they was called Scythians, and that Ashkenazi became part of the Chaldeans and took over Chaldea, and then how that they would attack us under the name the Babylon with the Chaldeans, and then they settled in the promised land in the Galilee area way back in the 500 BC, 600 BCs, and they was never driven out. They was never driven out. So they was there like 5, 6, man, about 600 years, man, before Jesus was even born. And Jesus wouldn't even know that Ashkenazi by the name of Scythians had settled in the promised land. You know, he was fooled by that. But how did they would claim Israelite heritage too? You know, they would claim an Israelite heritage too after being in the promised land for, by time Roman time came, they'd have been there 500 years. And they would have been practicing the Judaism that the Sephardics, you know, created and brought from Babylon, from their schools and so forth. You know, they would take our heritage and books to Babylon and reconstruct them and sit back and write all kind of stuff off our history and stuff. And men, they make all kind of books. Men, they made all kind of books for themselves and for their understanding of our books. That's like I be trying to explain to to Israelites, that, you know, when these Israelites be reading the Hebrew words and so forth, that them people done translated our words, that is not gonna always be correct, because them people don't know what words mean. You know what I'm saying? That all the Hebrew words mean, even though they spoke Hebrew, they would not have the same expression for words that we do. Even though that they could pronounce them words, they wouldn't express them. That's like, you know, we could say, hey man, that's bad over there. Man, that's bad. And bad mean good sometimes. But how in the Hebrew language that our enemies translated our heritage, that all the words would be right. That's like this here. Man, it's this word called synonym. Synonym. I'm gonna find it. Synonym and synonym. Man, synonym is man. It it's the land of sin. But then how did they take it? You know, synonym. Look, the land of sin. The land of sin. You see that? The land of sin. That's what the word synonym mean. And then how did the other rabbis and Jewish folks and Christians that interpret our words and make other meanings, they try to say that mean Chinese and China and so forth, and but synonym is the land of sin, and then that's cool because the Sanites, the Chinese people who are Canaanites too, you know what I'm saying? The Canaanites that lost their pigmentation and got all mixed up and stuff, and that how that they went across the through Russia, through the Bering Strait, and then come over, from the Bering Strait over to the Americas, and then populated this land, and this could be the land of sin. And then what would make that magnified is that America was took over by the Amorite Sephardics in its beginnings. They come over and traded with the natives and tricked them out the land, and then how did the Amorites name was sin. And then if the Amorites come and occupy America as they did, then this become the land of sin. This become the land of sin. It's become the land of sin two ways. And then you can look at you can look at the Babylonians king list name, and how a lot of those Amorite chieftain's name was Sin, Sinballat, and man, it's a whole bunch of them named Sin. And man, if you look at the Babylonian king's list names and the people's names during the Amorite control of Mesopotamia, you see everybody got Sin in their name. Sin this. See, look, that's an Amorite. Look, Sin was an Amorite king. April Sin. That's probably where April come from. April. You know what I'm saying? April Sin was an Amorite king, But all the Amorites, man, just about all their names gonna have sin in it. And then how it said that the Israelites would come from the land of sin. Come from the land of sin. And sin gonna be probably America. Cause it sure enough where all the sin come from. And then how we would go back to the promised land and stuff. I'm gonna read that. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna read that. But I just want to show that the Jewish, you know what I'm saying, that's that snake right there. I just did a video about a snake, and this snake got some heels too. You know what I'm saying? That snake got a heel. And then that's the Babylonian Amorite god snakes and the Amorite, you know what I'm saying, dealing with the gods of Babylon and so forth, Tamat and all that old madness and stuff. Alright. But how the Jews been claiming Jerusalem as theirs is because they're Amorites. They've been claiming Jerusalem. The Jewish connection to Jerusalem is because they're Amorites. Now let's look and see about them Sepharvaim, and then how they did everything in the promised land. And then I'm gonna go read that the history about sin, because we know sin gonna have to be America, because them Amorites chieftain names was Sin, and then all them sin folks, them Sepharvaim, took America over. The conquistadors from Spain and so forth, those are gonna be Amorite Edomites that had left the promised land in a proxy war with Ashkenazi. They left the promised land in a proxy war with Ashkenazi. How Ashkenazi put the Roman Catholic Church that they created, man, on them Edomite Sephardic Jews in 70 AD, and how that they'll take off and then go to their old hangout. They old hangout from their connection with the Philistines and the Phoenicians and so forth, and that come from Lebanon and so forth. That all this is an Amorite territory, and then how that they would get all congregated there, and then Ashkenazi will come after them there in Spain, and then how they'll launch on off to what they call the Americas and so forth, and then how that they will set sin up here. Sin to be set up here because the Amorites' name is sin. That's part of their name is sin. And then how that they'll be there and develop America. Alright. If you go back to 2 Kings chapter 17 verse 24, we're gonna see what they did in the promised land. That was they familiar with what was going on in the land. They already was, because they was Amorites, and we never driven out the Amorites. We never drove out the Amorites. There's all kind of scriptures showing that we never drove out the Amorites or the Canaanite tribes, and how that we let them folks parlay and kick back in the promised land. And then when we was driven out, they would have everything. And then all the Canaanite Amorite tribes that's in the promised land gonna cooperate with the Sepharvaims, the Sephardics, because they coming from Babylon with scribing skills. You know, they all connected anyway from Canaan to Mesopotamia. You know, that's all one big, family and stuff. Alright, so look, we know that the Sephardics was placed, who are Amorites, was placed in the promised land in 722 BC. We're just gonna say the educated ones. Alright, and as you read down, man, it goes like this. Alright, and so when you get over to verse 32, so they feared the Elohim and made unto themselves the lowest of them priests of the high places, which sacrificed for them in the houses of the high places. They feared the Elohim and served their own gods after the manner of the nations whom they carried away from thence. So they was doing what was done in Samaria. And then as you get all the way down to 41, so these nations feared the Elohim and served their graven images, both their children and their children's children, as they did their fathers, so do they unto this day. And they still the same, because they got that Judaism that got all kind of organizations and stuff connected to it that go back to that mysticism and all that Jewish mysticism, the Kabbals and all that old stuff. Alright, so we see that the Jews' connection to the promised land and to Jerusalem is going to be because they Amorites. Now, let's look at this here verse about sin. I wanted to get this in because I'll get to talking about a whole bunch of stuff and I'll be forgetting to go back to this. Alright. Listen, O owls, this is Isaiah 49. Listen, O owls, unto me, and hearken ye people from far. The Elohim had called me from the womb. From the bowels of my mother had he made mention of my name. And he had made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand had he hid me, and made me a polished shaft. In his quiver had he hid me, and said unto me, Thou art my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified. Then I said, I have labored in vain. I have spent my strength for naught and in vain. Yet surely my judgment is with the Elohim, and my work is with Yah. And now said the Elohim that formed me from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob again to him. Though Israel be not gathered, yet shall I be glorious in the eyes of the Elohim, and my Yah shall be my strength. Man, this almost sound like Yah promise. And he said, It is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant, to rise up the tribes of Jacob, and to restore the preserved of Israel. I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation unto the end of the earth. Now, if the peoples in the world start listening to the history that I show, I'm the only one in the Israelite community dealing with history on this level, talking about the Amorites, the Scythians, the facts that show that how we abandon our heritage to our enemies. I'm the only one showing this history in the Israelite community. You know, that's a fact. I'm the only one. That's why some of these brothers, let's have a debate. Debate about what? Can you explain anything about Ashkenazi and how the Sephardics got our heritage? And the brothers go mute. Debate over. Ain't no sense talking. But what I'm finna talk to you men about something that you don't know nothing about for. That ain't gonna be doing nothing but trying to make a fool out of what I'm saying. And that ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna happen. So I don't even debate with these brothers. If a brother show me that he knows something about the Sephardic Jews and Ashkenazi and how they got our heritage, then I'm gonna debate with them. We gonna talk. All right. And he said, it is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant to rise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the preserve of Israel. I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be salvation unto the end of the earth. This saith the Elohim, the Redeemer of Israel, and his Holy One, to whom he despises, to him whom the nations abhor, to a servant of rulers of kings shall see and arise. Princes also shall worship because of the Elohim that is faithful and the Holy One of Israel, and he shall choose thee. This saith the Elohim. In an acceptable time have I heard thee, and in a day of salvation have I helped thee, and I will preserve thee, and give thee for a covenant of the people to establish the earth, to cause to inherit the desolate heritage. And the desolate heritage, man, it's going to be, man, the earth in its decay and messed up. And when the Creator restore us to our heritage and the people start waking up that we the Israelites and that a cold game been played on everybody, then it'll start healing the earth and making everything right. And then it'll be like a new covenant established on earth when we come in to heritage, and then people get to see the falseness from them other people that claim our heritage and the damage that is done, because capitalism that's destroying the earth is in the people's hand who claim our heritage, and they got control of the whole Western culture and stuff that's damaging everything. Look, that thou mayest say to the prisoners, go forth to them that are in darkness, show thyself, they shall feed in the ways, and their pastors shall be in all high places. They shall not hunger nor thirst, neither shall the heat or sun smite them. For he that hath mercy on them shall lead them, even by the springs of water shall he guide them. And I will make all my mountains a way, and my highways shall be exalted. Behold, these shall come from far, and lo, these from the north, and from the west, and these from the land of Sinim. So we know synonym, they ain't got no meanings for that word. They ain't got no meanings for that word, and how they done made up a whole lot of meanings for that word. You know, they done made up meanings for that word. The Amorites control Babylon. And we know that the Amorites are the people that got our heritage. Synonym. You know, they ain't got no meaning. They try to make up for a meaning. Look. Synonym. That's like when I be telling you Hebrews, it's words in the Tanakh in Hebrew that they don't know. They don't know what it means, even though they speak Hebrew and can translate Hebrew. They don't know what we had that word meaning. But this is what they say. Look, synonym inhibiting of uncertain location. Uncertain location. How about in the biblical days, we know about all the nations in the east and knew about all these other places. The only place that we didn't know, which would be a strange land, would be America. And then we know that the people of sin, the Babylonian scribes and chieftains, come set America up, and this would be a synonym, the land of sin right here, as well as those, if they try to say that the Chinese, the Asian folks are the land, are sin from Sanite, and we know that they was Canaanites, well, they still went across You know what I'm saying? Russia to, or maybe across the Bering Strait down into the Americas. So it's still the land of sin. And this is where the Hebrews supposed to have been coming from. Behold, these shall come from far. This is Isaiah 49 verse 12. Behold, these shall come from far. And lo, these from the north and from the west, and these from the land of Sinim. Sing, O heavens, and be joyful, O earth, and break forth into singing, O mountains. Now, that's about right for us. If we get free over here in the west, that it should produce, O singings in the heavens and be joyful in the earth, because we the only people on the face of this earth oppressed continuous with a continuous stroke like we've been up under. Sing, O heavens, and be joyful, O earth, and break forth into singing, O mountains. For the Elohim had comforted his people and will have mercy upon his afflicted. See, we the only people that's afflicted, and we've been afflicted for a long time. We the longest affliction in the world on an ethnic group has been on us Israelites here in captivity. But Zion said the Elohim had forsaken me, and my Elohim had forgotten me. And it's just about how the people feel too, man. We like, oh man, have Almighty Yah gonna leave us here up under these devils' control to continue destroy us, or is he gonna save us? Well, he gonna save us. He gonna save us, especially the ones that believe in him. But Zion said the Elohim had forsaken me, and my Elohim had forgotten me. Can a woman forget her suckling child, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yeah, they may forget, yet will I not forget thee. And the Hebrews and them forgot, because just imagine, we left the promised land during the Babylonian wars to go into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. We never returned, so we would forget who we are. And that's what happened. And then when we was enslaved, and then they put a whole different mentality, that's like they doubled our forgetfulness, because we had forgot when we went into Africa for abandoning our heritage for some Egyptian religion, and then the slave capture us, and then give us another mentality. Man, that's double confusion right there. And that's what the people been going through and suffering from. All right. Behold, I have graven thee upon the palm of my hand. Thy walls are continually before me. Thy children shall make haste, thy destroyers. They that made thee waste shall go forth of thee. Lift up thine eyes round about, and behold, all these that gather themselves together and come to thee. As I live, said the Elohim, thou shalt surely clothe thee with them all, as with an ornament, and bind them on thee as a bride doeth. You know what I'm saying? That's like when everybody wake up from this truth that I'm showing, that the Sephardics and the Ashkenazis are not the Israelites, then they should be rushing to us trying to get right. They should be rushing to us real Israelites trying to get right and make amends. We some forgiving peoples. We ain't gonna hold it against them, because we broke the covenant. And things had to turn out this way, because that's the way Almighty Yah set it forth. All right. For thy waste and thy desolate places in the land of destruction shall even now be too narrow by reason of the inhabitants. And sure enough, right now today, all the foreigners done come over here where we at. We know that's a curse, that the foreigners would take up all the resources in the community and lend to us, and we will be devastated. And that's the way it is now. The land is too narrow, and there's nowhere to stay for the people, because the foreigners are coming in, buying up all the land, making the people homeless, and we devastated right now. Real bad. Israel doing real bad, because they done allowed the foreigners to come in with that money, with that oil money, and buy up our whole community. And man, they forcing us out. They forcing us out. For the waste in thy desolate places in the land of thy destruction shall even now be too narrow by reason of the inhabitants, and they that swallow thee up shall be far away. I wish they get on the way, but that's gonna be the the Jewish monetary system that had gold one time, that's abandoning this country and getting on down, trying to hook up with the Eastern nations with a gold-backed currency and so forth. So, they already said that the rich them pulled their resources up out this country. Right? The children which thou shalt have after thou hast lost the others shall say again in thine ears, the place is too strait for me, give place to me that I may dwell. And that's what we need right now, a place to dwell. Then shalt thou say in thine heart, who hath begotten me these, seeing I have lost my children and am desolate, a captive, and removing to and fro? And who had brought up these? Behold, I was left alone. These were they had they been. This said the Elohim, the Yah, behold, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles and set up my standard to the people, and they shall bring thee sons in their arms, and thy daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders, and kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers, and they shall bow down to thee with their face toward the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet, and thou shalt know that I am the Elohim, for they shall not be ashamed that wait for me. Shall the prey be taken from the mighty, of the lawful captive delivered? But this said the Elohim, even the captive of the mighty shall be taken away, and the prey of the terrible shall be delivered. For I will contend with him that contend with thee, and I will save thy children, and I will feed them that oppress thee with their own flesh, and they shall be drunken with their own blood, as with sweet wine. All flesh shall know that I, the Elohim, thy Savior and thy Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. And that's another thing. As you read the book of Isaiah, you will see that it says that Almighty Yah is our Savior. And not one time have it ever said that a demigod, a God's son, is going to come save anybody. And how that was a mentality developed by the Babylonian scribes, the people that we abandoned our heritage to. The people that we abandon our heritage to, they come from them. Alright? Look, you see the Amorites all from Syria. And then they would, them Amorites that was in Syria right below Turkey would mix with them with them Canaanite tribes that was in Turkey underground. And this when the Creator said that that a snake would bruise our head and will bruise his heel, and how he used to lick the dust up and live in the earth. And you know what I'm saying? A snake gonna live in the earth.
They can hold anything as much as 20,000 people at a time. Now you work that out, 20,000 people times 36. Some of them are interlinked.
Underground in Turkey.
Many kilometres in distance. And there's no reason for these at all.
That's where the Hittites live, That's where the Hittites live. And them underground folks, that's going to be Cain descendants. And how Cain descendants will mix up with the Amorites. And then that will produce Jerusalem also. You know what I'm saying? And then that will be the Amorites' connection to Jerusalem also. Let's see what the prophet Ezekiel say about this. He gonna tell you. So we know that the Jews' connection to the promised land is gonna be from their Amorite heritage. Alright, look, if you go to Ezekiel 16. Alright. Again, the word of the Elohim came unto me, saying, Son of man, cause Jerusalem to know her abominations. Look, cause Jerusalem to know her abominations. And say, this said the Elohim, the Yah. This said the Elohim Yah unto Jerusalem, thy birth. Look, thy birth and thy nativity is of the land of Canaan. Thy father was an Amorite, and thy mother a Hittite. All right, them folks in them caves, it's the Hittites, and we know that Edom mixed up with them. But you see how Jerusalem, father is an Amorite and mother is a Hittite. Look, and again, the word of the Elohim came unto me, saying, Son of man, cause Jerusalem to know her abominations, and say, this said the Elohim Yah unto Jerusalem, Thy birth, and thy nativity is of the land of Canaan. Thy father was an Amorite, and thy mother was a Hittite. You see, so that's Jerusalem's birth right there. So those Jews that claim a historical connection to the promised land is because they're Amorites. That's their land. Look, the Jewish historical connection to Jerusalem is going to be their Amorite heritage. You see, the Amorites, the Sepharvaims, that's the Hebrew word for Sephardi, Sephardic, and Sephardim. They're Amorites, and they come from Sippar. So that's their connection to Jerusalem. You see what I'm saying? And then when we Israelites went into Africa to do the Egyptian religion, then they would have total say over the Israelite heritage. And then if you go to Jeremiah, this is during the Babylonian Wars. This is like 134 years after them folks was placed in our land. And then you go to Jeremiah chapter 44. Chapter 44. Verse 15, 16, and show that the Israelites ran off. And I already showed that it wasn't no 10 lost tribes. Look, then all the men which knew that their wives had burnt incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwell in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of victuals, food, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. So during the Babylonian wars, the Creator chased us up off the land, because if you read the book of Jeremiah, gonna be our last actions on the promised land for the 99%, as I have shown in previous videos, that it wasn't no 10 lost tribes, and how that's a myth, and that how that Hebrews be passing myths around and stuff, and that how it never was any 10 lost tribes, because you can read Hezekiah, all the tribes was there after the Assyrians supposed to allegedly took them away. And I got videos explaining our real connection to the Assyrians, and how it was like a little off and on friendship. It depends on who was in charge and was he broke or not. And then the Assyrians were a robbing nation, was some robbers. That's all the Syrians were, some robbers. And we would hang out with them and go rob with them. But then them people start coming off and up under them caves, out them holes in Turkey, in the Caucasus Mountain, Ashkenazi, and then they came and kicked it into Syria, and then they tore Syria mouth out. And then because we was on Egyptian religion, then they come tore our mouth out and chased us off the land. And because we had got chased off the land, some Babylonian scribes that had been placed in our land that was Amorites already, they just picked up everything and started claiming the Israelite heritage, and then broke Ashkenazi off some of our heritage for chasing us out the promised land. So that's how it go, man. Israelite history is real easy. Israelite history is real easy to understand, and if you follow the Israelite Brotherhood teachings, you're going to know Israelite history real good, and our enemies ain't going to be able to play no games on you. They ain't going to be able to play no games on you. Like I say, it's the Israelite Brotherhood job is to watch, and I be looking around trying to see who doing this and that with the Israelite heritage. That's like all the camps got to be cast away, and it's gonna come a time when the Israelite Brotherhood get good and strong, that them leaders in them camps, we're gonna start saying goodbye to you. we're going to start saying goodbye to you. It's going to be a headless organization because them leaders in them camps are causing people to sin and go astray. It seems like the people are uprise and get their leaders and do away with them themselves, but the Israelites are asleep and they don't know no truth. So if you in them camps and you know who you are, you know what I'm saying, the Israelite Brotherhood is here, and we got clear history for you. And then it's from the come a time where the Israelite Brotherhood gonna have a headquarters, and all you Israelites gonna have to support and associate with, if you want to associate with truth. Because like I say, Hebrews ain't even on this level. I don't even debate with no Hebrews. Because what? Tell me, show me that you know something about Ashkenazi and the Sephardic Jews. Show me that you know how they tricked us out of our heritage. You know, when I see that a Hebrew is on that level, then we got something to rap about. Alright, Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. I just show how the Jews' connection to Jerusalem is going to be the Sepharvaims or Amorites. And the Amorites never lost control of the promised land because we never drove them out, as shown in man, I might can even read a few of them verses, because man, our mouth got tore out. Judges tell you how we never drove them folks out, how we never drove out the Canaanites, you know. And the children of Benjamin did not drive out the Jebusites that inhabit Jerusalem. The Jebusites are Amorites, but the Jebusites dwell with the children of Benjamin in Jerusalem unto this day. See, look, and Elohim was with Judah, and he drove out all the inhabitants of the mountain. So Judah got rid of his, but all the other Canaanites, look, but neither did Manasseh drive out the inhabitants of Beth Shean. And Beth Shean is a terrible place, because Beth Shean is where Ashkenazi set up in Scythopolis. Scythopolis is ancient Beth Shean, and we never drove the enemies out of there in her towns, you know, and man, we never drove them folks out. And neither did Ephraim drive out the Canaanites that dwell in Gezer, but the Canaanites dwell in Gezer. Neither did Zebulun drive out the inhabitants of Kithron, nor the inhabitants of Naphtali. The Canaanites dwell among them. You know, and it goes on. The Asherites dwell among the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land, for they did not drive them out. Neither did Naphtali drive out the inhabitants of Beth Shemesh, the inhabitants of Bethemath, but he dwelt among the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land. Nevertheless, the inhabitants of and the Amorites forced the children of Dan into the mountain, for they would not suffer them to come down to the valley. But the Amorites would dwell in Mount Heres and Ajijon and Shambalam. Yet the hand of the house of Joseph prevailed, so that they became tributaries, but they were still there. See, we never drove them out. And then as you read on in Judges, man, we had bad dealings with them folks, and we only got control of the promised land through King David. And then when we get good control of the promised land through King David, how Solomon was tricked by the Egyptians, and that will start our downfall all the way till we was driven out the land. And then when we was driven out the land, them Amorites that we didn't drive out start claiming our heritage. It's plain and simple as that. The Amorites that we didn't drive out start claiming our heritage, and they was claiming it already. And then look, let me show them coming to the Passover dinner. If you go to 2 Chronicles 30. 2 Chronicles 30, verse 25. This is in 715 BC. This is 7 years after them folks was placed. And then as you read 2 Chronicles 30 with King Hezekiah, you'll see that all the tribes still there. And this is after the so-called Assyrians supposed to have been taking everybody everywhere. But if you look, all the tribes still there. All the tribes still at home. All the tribes still at home. Alright, and then as you read on down, you'll get to verse 25. And this is 2 Chronicles 30, verse 25. And this King Hezekiah having a dinner at Passover, a Passover dinner at Jerusalem, and he trying to get everybody to come. And them folks from Samaria that was placed in 722, the Amorites came to the Passover dinner. Look, and all the congregation of Judah with the priests and the Levites and all the congregation that come out of Israel and the strangers that come out of the land of Israel that dwell in Judah rejoice. So those strangers, the strangers gonna be the people that was placed in 722 BC. That's simple. It's that simple. And then those strangers would get our heritage when we go into Africa during the Babylonian Wars. As I showed in countless videos that it never was any 10 lost tribes and how we was all driven off the land. We was all driven off the land into Africa. You know, and then that's a fact. Look, that's what the Creator said. And I will give into the hand of the strangers for a prey to the wicked of the earth for a spoil, and they shall pollute it. Talking about our house, our place. You know what I'm saying? Our place of residency, and that's what happened. My face will I turn also from them, that they shall pollute my secret place, for the robbers shall enter into it and defile it. Make, you know what I'm saying? Man, that's what happened. The robbers enter it, and then I can show that them Amorites entered into the temple during Nehemiah time, and then got control of the land. Nehemiah drove them out of Tobiah, and then how did they would buy the land up from the exiles. I already explained how the exiles was destroyed, but you see the Jews' connection to the promised land is going to be from their Amorite heritage. You know, they were Amorites. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. I just showed that the Sephardics are Amorites from Babylon that got control of our land, and then that we never drove out the Amorites, and that when we ran off in the book of Jeremiah, that those folks got our land and got our heritage. And then if you go to 2 Kings 25:26, this is all of us running into Africa. And all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies arose and came to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldees. We was afraid of Ashkenazi. And then how we would never return from Africa, and we would eventually get enslaved. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood.